Hey friends, this is Journals for Breakfast. My name is Andrea, and you are so welcome here. This week, I am back in a Hobonichi. I did a video a couple weeks ago that I was at a Hobonichi and into Paper Republic, and that is correct as far as my regular planner goes for this year. I've stepped away from the Hobonichi cousin Avec and into the Paper Republic A4. It's a big daddy. And if you're curious about my whys, that video is a couple weeks back. Please do feel free to watch. But this week, I got going on a Hobonichi 5 year. And we've talked about it here before that I was debating. I've talked about this a few times in the last year and a half or so of this channel. Just kind of curious about the concept. It felt sort of really overwhelming to me when I first thought about it. Um, but then it started to kind of appeal to me. And then I talked about maybe starting one around my 55th birthday, which will be in June, and taking it from 55 to 60. And then I started looking at them online and realized that, duh, they all start in January. I thought, do you want 6 months of empty for the first year? You know what I mean? If you go from January to June without filling in. So I just decided I would take a look at a few more and see. Paper Republic does do a 5 year journal, and it's beautiful, and it is definitely less expensive than the Hobonichi. They are sold out at the moment, so keep that in mind. You can add your name to the wait list on the Rifle Paper Company website if you'd like to go that route. I did check Jet Pens; they were sold out of the 5 year, and I ultimately what I went with the Hobonichi 5 year was a gift set that they offered. I'm showing some photos of that now, and it included the journal and a pencil board and this specialty cover. And this cover is only available in that gift set. You can't do this separately. And it's cloth and it's embroidered, and I think it's absolutely beautiful. And I do have a plastic A4 protector cover coming for this. I checked Jet Pens, they were sold out of the A4 cover. You can wait list there as well, but it turns out Amazon had one for $8. So that's on the way. And I really do love the beautiful embroidery. And I said in my previous video, one of the things that made me put a pause on Hobonichi this year was they just didn't have a specialty cover, a collector's cover in the Hobonichi artwork that was really calling my name to the point where I felt like I needed to go for it. And because my lifestyle has changed so much, my planner needs have changed so much. But if they had had a cover that I just couldn't live without, I would have just grabbed another cousin and moved on with life. But they didn't. So I tried Paper Republic, and I'm really happy that I did. I'm loving that. So the 5 year, here's the thing, the conversation we're going to have today. Is my life exciting enough to keep a 5 year journal? Listen, y'all, the minute that I put a post up on Instagram, and I also did a post on the YouTube page that said, this 5 year journey is beginning, guess what I bought, right? And immediately, the very first comment that I got on Instagram was, I've debated doing this, but I feel like my life is too boring for a 5 year journal. Over on YouTube, I got the same comment from a different person, but it was the same exact thing. I've always wanted to pull the trigger on this, and I've never done it because I'm not sure I have enough to record for 5 years, or that my life is interesting enough. And then it goes from there. Now other people start chiming in, same thing, me too. I've thought the same thing. And I was like, wow, that's amazing how many people are thinking that. And it occurred to me as I was reading those comments that in my real life, I call it journaling in the wild, when I just am out in my world talking about my YouTube channel or my love of journaling. And I've been a journaler since I was 13. So I have had a lot of conversations about journaling. When I get pushback, when somebody says, oh, journaling, no, that's not for me. I have heard many times that people have said it's because it's boring. And I am now wondering if I was misinterpreting that comment. If really what some people have been saying to me about journaling and being boring is that they think they are too boring for journaling. I do know some people get bored with journaling. That just happens. We get bored with all kinds of things. But I'm going to be more cognizant moving forward about that language and see if I can draw out of that conversation what they're really trying to get to, because I don't think anybody is too boring to journal. There is no detail that isn't interesting down the road. And then the other thing I ask myself is, are you abandoning yourself in this moment? Remember how much we talked about that last week? Are you looking at the idea of other people looking at your journal and thinking that you're not interesting enough? Remember why we do this. This is for us. If anybody else ever reads it, fine, but probably they won't. It's about tracking for yourself. So, an interesting timing thing happened. I pulled the trigger on the 5 year just because why not? I just was in the mood. I wanted to buy something nice. They had this beautiful gift set. Rifle Paper Company was out of it. Side note, I also did consider making one. So I looked through my stash of blank journals and I have some beautiful Archer and Olive and I did some math. If you're going to do a 5 year journal, most of them have, like, this is, let's say, 424. Okay. This year, next year, the year after that, the year after that, the year after that. One page of 5 years worth of entries about 424. Okay. So that setup is similar to all of them. So you don't need, let's say there's 365 days in a year. Do you need 365 pages times five? No, because you can condense that down, right? So I did some math on it, and the reality is, at the end of the day, I didn't have any journals that I hadn't had enough pages. Even if I did 2 days in a spread, so if I did, like, this Hobonichi does a day here and then blank, if I had done 425 and 426 and done 2 days, 5 years worth per page, I still didn't have enough pages in the blanks that I had. I'm also going to say that y'all know, I tried to make a journal. Remember that reading journal I tried to make? Cool. It's actually tricky to make a journal. And I just didn't want it looking super hokey if I'm going to be in and out of that thing for 5 years. You know what I mean? I'm going to have a sip of coffee. So, okay. So I decided to just pull the trigger and treat myself to this thing in this beautiful gift box. And it came in this gorgeous box. See this nice heavy box? It came in this box, and look inside. Is even illustrated. And it has this beautiful illustration out here. And it's such a nice size box. And I realized yesterday that I'm actually going to start storing the whole thing in it. I'm going to put this in there, a couple little bibs and bobs, some pencils, erasers, and just keep it all there. I have just been keeping this kind of on a shelf, and then I pull it out at night and jot down stuff during the day. It does have a pen loop that will fit one of my pencils, or, and it tells you this on the website very clearly, you can hook a pen in here by its hook, meaning this pen loop is small. It doesn't fit most pens, but it'll fit the pen through its own loop. This pen's loop fits in this loop. And if you read the description of this on Hobonichi, they actually say that. They're crystal clear about it. So just keep that in mind. Also, the clear cover that I ordered, it has a pen loop in it. So it might be larger, but actually that'll be nice because then I can have a pen and a pencil in there. So anyway, so I pull the trigger on this 5 year. Everybody chimes in that they're interested in it, but they don't think they'll be interesting enough to do it. Is their life too boring to track? And meanwhile, I'm kind of like, what am I going to track? What do I want to put in here? So here's what's weird. My book club just read this book, and I do highly recommend it. Frozen River. I read the description about this book before you buy it. I will tell you here, I'm going to give you a trigger warning that there is a sexual assault case that's kind of unsolved, is sort of the core of this story. There's a lot more to it, but that is in there. And so just be aware. But here's the thing that's amazing about this book is that it is a historical fiction based on a real person, Martha Ballard. The author discovers that Martha Ballard existed because she sees an article about her while she's actually in a waiting room at a doctor's office, rips the page out, goes home, forgets about it, then finds it one day, does a little bit of research, and realizes that Martha Ballard was a midwife in, I'm going to say 1730, but somewhere around that range. It might have been 1780. I'd have to look back at this. I don't have my glasses on right now. And as a midwife, she kept pretty clear records because she was recording people's births um, in the county. And so it was kind of her job. But she also just recorded other tidbits about her day. And she kept these journals her entire adult life. So I was reading this book before the 5 year, but a few days into this book, I then get this hankering to order this 5 year, and then I get back. I'm continuing to read the book and like, oh, these are really lining up because hers are long term entries. I'm gonna read you some stuff. So, how she gets into journaling is that her husband gave her a journal just after they got married. This is how Ephraim shows his devotion, making sure that I always have something with which to write. On our wedding night many years ago, he gave me the first leather journal, identical to the one on my desk now. He said it was a place to keep my thoughts together in one place, and his only request was that I not let it sit empty. I have filled dozens of them since. The books themselves are easier to come by than the ink, and it isn't uncommon for Ephraim to return from a trip to Boston with a new volume filled with blank, stiff pages. I find them on my stool, often with a pressed flower tucked in between the pages. Those flowers, now dried, remain exactly where he placed them, while the books themselves reside on a shelf across the room. I keep up with the journals because I enjoy it, but also because it's my job, one of the duties of my profession. As I mentioned, she was a midwife, and so she's keeping track there. But here's another thing she says: memory is a wicked thing, it warps and twists, but paper and ink receive the truth without emotion, and they read it back without partiality. That, I believe, is why so few women are taught to read and write. God only knows what they would do with the power of the pen and ink at their disposal. I have a rather good idea what secrets might be recorded and then later revealed if more women took up the pen. I love that. Memory fades and it also warps and twists. And I think even the little details, and we're going to get into what I'm tracking in this, what I'm recording in this, even the little details, I think you're going to find interesting, um, no matter how simple they are. So, I flagged some pages in here that I thought were relevant to our discussion of, is my life interesting enough? What will I record? And I also marked a few of her entries from the book. Now, these are fictional. These aren't from her actual diary, but they're based on her diary. Wednesday, November 25th, clear and cold. The ice runs in the river. That's the entire entry. On the next page, here's another entry. Cirrus, Jonathan, Hannah, and Dolly attended a frolic at the home of May Kimball, got home late. Then Jonathan set out for Long Reach with with a raft of boards. Sam Darwin and James Wall were with him. That's the whole entry. Um, Thursday, October 1, clear except some showers. We had company this afternoon. Mr. Savage here. Sometimes she writes, clear and cold. I stayed home today. That's it. But within this story, of course, it turns out that some of her very simple references end up being useful in this case that's going on. But just as a reference in general, looking back and seeing what the weather was on the same day today, 5 years ago, I think it's kind of interesting. I realize that recording temperatures might be boring, but actually, are they? Because when we look back at it, I think we might find it fascinating. Now, here's something that the author puts in her author's note at the back of the book. Now, what I'll tell you about the author's note is she warns you, don't read this entire author's note until you've read the book. But the piece I'm going to read here doesn't give you any spoilers for the story. Okay. So, Martha Ballard keeps these diaries, very simple diaries, her entire life. And ultimately, they are published. I think 5 generations later, one of the great granddaughters gets them published. We'll talk about that in a second. But here's what happens when she keeps these simple records of clear, rainy day, storm day, etc. Martha Ballard ensured that she would not be forgotten. There was nothing in Christian tradition that said a midwife ought to keep a diary. For some complex of reasons, probably unknown even to her, Martha felt an intense need to recreate her own life day by day. She not only documented her prayers, her lost sleep, her deeds of charity and compassion. She savored and wrote down the petty struggles and small graces of ordinary life, aka boring. The diary is a selective record shaped by her need to justify and understand her life, yet it is also a remarkably honest one. It tells us that Martha was a devout Christian, a humble nurse whose intelligence sometimes made it difficult for her to attend church or defer to her town's physicians. A loving mother, a gentle woman with a sense of duty and an anatomical curiosity that allowed her to observe autopsies as well as cry over the dead, a courageous woman who never quite learned to stay on her horse, a sharp eyed and practical woman who kept faith in the ultimate justice. And outside of her own diary, Martha has no history. So without this diary, she would have been lost to history. Nobody would have known who she was. Um, and that not only was she a midwife, she was incredibly successful. I believe that I am correct in saying that she actually never loses a child, which is incredible, or a mom, especially back then. Here are some entries in her diary uh, in the days leading up to her death. Tuesday, May 5th. Snowed and very cold. I have felt very feeble. I have been at home. May 7th. Clear most of the day, very cold and windy. Daughter brought a number of her children here. Reverend Mr. Tappan came and conversed sweetly and made a prayer adapted to my case. I have been at home, very feeble. Um, these are not Pulitzer Prize winning entries in a journal. These are not her best creative writing ever done. These are not outrageously interesting stories of life in safari in Africa. This is a very simple rural life, and she's recording the most base parts about it, and it's totally fascinating. Are you interesting enough to keep a 5 year journal? Absolutely. Absolutely. I think we can get blank page syndrome on this 5 year journal pretty quickly, because you just sort of look at it and think, oh, what am I going to record for 5 years? And that kind of happened to me this week too. In the comments this week, if you are keeping a 5 year journal, what do you track? And if you're thinking about it but haven't pulled the trigger, what's your reason? Do you want to talk about it? Do you want to be talked into it or talked out of it? And I will put in the description some links for you, but I'm also going to include in the description some things you could consider tracking in your 5 year journal. So we're going to go to some overhead and I'll show you how I've started mine so far. Side note, I'm already fascinated by what I did 5 days ago because I was just getting into it, right? So already my style has changed, my handwriting has changed. The temperatures have fluctuated dramatically in the last 7 days. It's unbelievable. It's already fascinating. So let's do an overhead and look at the things I'm thinking about tracking. And remember this, there are no rules to journaling, even your own rules. You can break them, they're arbitrary. So if you decide that this is what I'm setting up for 5 years, and then you're starting to burn out on it or be less excited by it or it's starting to feel like homework, change it, do something else. There's no rules. And here's the fun part about that. 5 years from now, when you go back and look at your first 6 months and how they morphed and changed compared to your last 6 months, and what really settled in and became the thing, I think you're going to have a lot of fun with that for yourself, just watching your own transition through this journey. So, no rules journaling. That's key. Let's do some overhead. Okay. Sorry, my camera's moving. So, this is my, you guys have seen my A5 that I used to keep my Hobonichi cousin in. And now I just have this Lystrom dot grid notebook. And what I keep in this are my plans for each week's video. So this week we're talking about the 5 year journal. The number one comment, my life day to day isn't interesting enough. And then I started tracking some things that I've started putting into my 5 year journal to maybe give you some ideas about that. So daily, this is every single day, temp, dinner, what we're watching, book started or book finished or both. I am curious about how I do that. And if you have thoughts about recording how you read in this, because obviously I don't want to put every single day still reading, still reading, still reading, still reading, because for a week it's just going to be that book. So do I put that I started this book and when I finished it? maybe. If you have thoughts about that, let me know. Social. I am not a very outside of the house, sorry, a very outside of the house social person. I don't do a whole lot of social things. So I felt like it would be worth kind of tracking when I do have those moments, because they're, frankly, they're kind of rare. Art, what am I working on that day? Maybe a quote. Really kind viewer mentioned that. I think that's a nice idea. And I do write quotes in my daily, just scribble scrabble journals. Mood, I know a lot of people do mood trackers. I'm pretty much always in the same mood. So I think I can put a note in there if I'm having a very emotional day for some reason. But day to day, I pretty much feel great. Moon, maybe tracking the moon phases. Health, how's your overall health? I think I've seen a lot of different people track that in different ways, like on a scale of 1 to 5, or if there's something super specific that they're working on, or maybe they have some health goals, like, trying to work out so many times a week or something like that. You could probably track that. I think a tarot note would be interesting if you pull a card every day, just the card. Today was the Raven. Today was, Six of Swords, whatever your deck is. And I would make a note in my journal of what deck I'm pulling. And I might actually only pull from a single deck per year for that particular entry. So those are some. I will type these all up into the description below, but I would be curious to know if you have some others you would add to this. Of course, Martha Ballard in Frozen River, she tracks the weather. So she just says whether it's clear or cloudy or rainy or snowy, cold, warm, whatever. I'm actually putting, for my temperature, I'm putting the high temp of the day. I'll show you that. Of course, she tracks landmark things at work. Like if she birthed a baby that day, she tracks its weight and the mom and dad and all that stuff. Um, yeah, so just tell me what your thoughts are about what you would put there. And then here is mine. And of course, I got mine in the middle of January. And so I had to do some backfilling. So I just took it easy on the backfill. I didn't go too crazy. I just sort of scribbled in some notes. And like on January 1st, I didn't even put the temp because I couldn't find an app that would take me as far back as January 1. I just need to do more hunting. There is one. I just haven't found it yet. But I just put a note that my chemo port was removed yesterday on December 31st. And today we took the tree down, right? So I'm just starting to get into this and get a feel for it. I also made a note that what day it is, because see, it just says 1-1. So 1-1 of 2026 is a Thursday, Friday. And I'm going to do that every day with the actual day of the week, because that'll shift. And if we end up with a leap year in there, they won't line up one year, which will be interesting. No gym, had surgery Wednesday. Let's see. Met my realtor to create a good listing and price plan for the studio. Sushi with Sophia. Dinner, spaghetti and meatballs. I am going to track dinner. Was that in this one? Let's double check. I already am finding it fun to look back at what we ate last week. Isn't that funny? Yeah, dinner is in there. Okay. It's a Saturday. Here's what I did. We redid the mantle by Christmas. Hello Winter. Very pretty. We loaded a YouTube video. See that type of thing? Like a little action that I did that day? Meh. I don't know. I don't know if I'm keeping track of those or not. Sunday. And what we watched. I started adding that on the 4th. And we watched Industry on HBO. Boring, not much going on here. No appointments, all day at home. Wash the rug in the den. I put a little star next to that because I tend to do that around this time every year. Lots of crafts that day, so that's nice. Gym, a few errands, knitting plan review. Again, I'm just backfilling here, so these aren't super exciting. But now around here is when I get the actual, is when I'm caught up. Like I got this around the 13th. It's a Tuesday, the temperature, and this is the high temp of the day. And I might make a note about that somewhere in here. That just for my own memory purposes, that what I'm recording is what was the high temp of the day. And then social, I put gym because that is my one social thing sometimes. But I also went to lunch and went shopping with my friend Sophia, and I'm watching Industry on HBO. Now This one I got started really trying to figure it out. Here's the date. Am I going to write things about the Philadelphia Phillies, which is our baseball team? I don't know. I mean, we're not in season right now. So what am I going to write every day? So that may be hit or miss. Let's see. Social, watching, personal note, um, social, emotional, watching. Here's one I just said, what if you just did a little loose entry, almost like Martha Ballard? Friday, gym at 10, really good workout. Some reason there was no one but me and Coach Thomas. Bubble bath, knitting and TV, nice day overall. But that to me is a little vague. Like, I am curious, what was the temperature that day? What did we eat for dinner that day? So as we move into the next week, here's Sunday, I start getting a groove going. So the day is Sunday. The temperature, the high on Sunday was 47 degrees. That's chilly. Long chilly walk with Echo times two. We went out twice in that rainy, chilly day and had some really nice marsh walks. Lots of watercolor and journal time. Finished Frozen River. So book finished. We'll see how I do with that. Watch the NFL playoffs and dinner. I had chickpea and tuna salad. Michael had leftover fusilli pasta. Monday, high temp 50. Steps. I'm not going to track that. I already realized the first day that I did that I wasn't interested. And same with MEP. This is a marker for exertion at the gym that I do. I don't think that's going to be of any relevance to me in future years or whatever. So this should say started reading Brimstone by Callie Hart, so I'll fix that. Errands, we went to Aldi. Note, Chilean Sunday, nice walk. Watching 11/22/63, it's a series on Netflix. And dinner, beef chili over sweet potato A on a hot dog M. My husband and I do not always eat the same thing because he cannot gain weight, and that is not the story for me. So I think this is where I'm kind of going with it. The day, the temp, my social action, what we're watching, health, allergies strong. Sorry about my bright red eyes, you guys. That's the reason. Walks, dinner, roasted chicken, rice, and sauteed asparagus. Yeah, I'm kind of keeping with this. It's starting to look better. The things I'm going to shift. Oh, and PS, I forgot to make a note of when this happens. Did you notice? So they give you this blank page. You know what I want to do with a blank page. I want to cover it in collage as fast as I possibly can. um, I just want to fill it in with scraps of paper and go crazy. But that would be this year. And then for the next 4 years, I'd have to look at that collage, which is fine, I suppose. But what I decided to do instead was extend the day and give myself a little bit more breathing room, a little bit more room to write and spread out a little bit. So I just used the pencil board that came with this gift set and extend that day. Just draw a line here, draw a line here, and now I've got room to spread out a little bit. So that's what I'm going to continue to do. Now, I didn't bother to do them for the next few years because what if I change my mind? I don't know. But for now, that seems to be working. And watching 11/22/63, good show. I think I'll read the book by Stephen King. So just a few little notes, right? And I'll be curious down the road if I do end up reading that book. And I wonder if I'll have remembered that the reason I picked it up and read it was because we watched that show. So yeah, I'm pretty good with this setup. Temp, gym, I'm just saying that I went. Long walk, pretty day, mini chores, still reading Brimstone, watching, and then we watched because we finished 11/22/63, and then we watched the new Naked Gun, which was pretty funny, I have to say. Crockpot London broil was our dinner, and here's today. So, yeah, is that the most exciting journaling you've ever seen in your life? No. But I think it's going to be intriguing year after year, to be honest with you. Hobonichi is so wonderful. They send you this little blank paper. This is ink test paper, which is so brilliant of them. And if you go to the Hobonichi website, if you are Japanese or speak Japanese, this will be helpful to you. I am neither. But it does give you ideas about layouts. If you go to the Hobonichi website and you search in their search bar 5-year, and then you scroll down to the underneath the 5-year that are available, you'll see that there's videos that show you how to use them. They have a few ideas there. You got to do some digging to find them. And when you first get the Hobonichi website, go to the bottom and click English and make sure that you're getting everything in English. So I'll do some more hunting on that myself to just see if I find some ideas that I'm interested in. But there it is. Let's do a face to face. I want to do a tarot reading for our prompt this week, and yeah, wrap up our conversation. So yeah, I mean, is that exciting? No, but like I said, it's already kind of interesting to me, the big weather changes that we've had. I mean, a high of 47, and then yesterday it was 70 uh, in an 8-day window. I think that's fascinating. And also, I'm really enjoying keeping track of dinner. That's going to be curious to me as we move forward. And I will say this: I'm not saying that somebody's going to find my journal 100 years from now, but wouldn't you be interested to know what Martha Ballard ate every night back in 1760? What was their dinner? Was it just like pot of beans over and over? I don't know. You're interesting enough to keep a 5-year journal. I'm going to tell you that. And I say, just let the pressure go and track what you feel like tracking. I think it's going to evolve over time. I think that's the fun of it. I think 5 years from now, when you see how much it did evolve and shift, what was super important to you today, what's super important to you 3 years from now, 5 years from now, I think that's going to be really fun. I think that's part of it. So, yeah, I hope that's helpful. And please share with me any ideas you have about things to track and put in there. We're going to read a card today. Keepers of the Light was speaking to me this morning. I don't know why. I don't always pull from this deck. These are oracle cards. So each card is a god, goddess, oracle, monk, nun, etc. Find them fascinating, but I don't pull from this deck very often, and it just was speaking to me, so that's what we're going to do. And maybe we can give ourselves a little journaling prompt. Maybe the first thing you can put in your 5-year journal is what oracle card was pulled on this day. I'm going to give that a little shuffle just to make sure we're moving them around, getting our energy. And thank you so much for the beautiful comments about my video last week. I was very open and heartfelt. Of course, I'm always open. I am an open book. I've always said that about myself. But yeah, I get into some real honest stuff there. And it was funny. I was in my women's group this week, and one of the women was saying that was dealing with a situation that she could feel this tension, like right behind her breastplate every time she sat down to do this thing. And ultimately, she just stopped and realized she needed to just sit with that emotion and figure out what was happening. And she was struggling with some resentment. And we got into that conversation about self abandonment, that we lose ourselves, and usually there are a lot of signs when we've done that. Things start to get physically uncomfortable sometimes when we've done that. And so it's just interesting that that conversation is just continuing out in the world right now. Okay, so let's pull an oracle card. And oh, this is lovely. Okay, the card we pulled is Faith, Humanity, and Benevolence. Stay calm, trust the good in yourself and others, and see the light in the world. That means a lot to me because my word of the year last year was faith, and my word of the word this year is joy. So see the light in the world. That's the joy. Trust the good in yourself and in others. That's the faith. And let's look her card up and see if we can find a little reading to go with this. And then our session this week together will be done. And I hope you guys are doing really well. Okay, faith. Faith is the archangel who focused on bringing out our benevolence. She is the twin flame of the archangel Michael and is on a divine mission to help us recognize that humans are basically good and aligned with love. Just like her name, she is all about faith and trust. She reminds us that the world has taught us to believe that we are separate from love, and that if we begin to see the good in others, then we will start to cultivate a loving experience of the world around us. Extended message. Stay calm and breathe. You are a divine being of love who has done so much good in the world. You may be going through personal transformations and feel that you're not getting anywhere, but Archangel Faith is drawing close to guide you beyond the limitations that your ego or fears have created for you. You may be trying to work out whom to trust. First, trust yourself. When you do this and recognize that you are made of love, you will attract those who reflect that love and can enjoy true friendships and loving relationships. Know that good is here to stay. So, our journal prompt this week: stay calm, trust the good in yourself and others, see the light in the world. And I will also say, you may be trying to work out whom to trust. First, trust yourself. Um, Faith, let's hold up that beautiful card. So I hope that's a nice journaling prompt for you this week. The 5-year journey is underway. I'm back home in some Hobonichi. I was missing it a little bit. I do love that company. I love their products and that beautiful embroidered cover and the gift box. Listen, it was not cheap. That was a splurge. But, such is life. Sometimes we have to splurge. Thanks for being here. I look forward to seeing you guys next week. I hope you have a wonderful week and keep chiming in. I love chatting with you guys. I love the community that we're building here. So thanks for stopping in.